Welcome to Leah Love Juicy Diamonds. I am Leah Love, your host, and I love all things juicy transformation. So I'm going to get into a topic. I'm going to deep dive today. So I am thinking about trust. And I know the first episode covered trust in self. And I'd kind of like to talk about trust in your husband or your mate or partner. As a woman, I think that one of the most difficult things for me to do, at least in my past, was to financially trust a man based on my education, based on my upbringing, and based on the general ideology that we have as women being raised in the Western world. There is so much wrapped up into financially depending on a man. And I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s when there was a heavy feminist push in pushing the ideology in television shows, radio, pretty much anywhere. And it was, pushing the idea of female equality to males. And the push was on many fronts, but one of the main ones was, should he cheat on you and you be left with nothing, how would you be able to fend for yourself financially as well as for your children? And so it's kind of interesting that the push wasn't so much about, the economic need in a household for two individuals to be working, but it was more so about infidelity and divorce. And when I think about that, I think about the fear that was instilled in me from a very young age that I needed to be independent because a man could cheat at any time and leave the family or leave me without any recourse or any means to protect myself, to eat, to have a roof over my head. And that fear that was instilled from very early on, it creates a wall, a barrier around my heart, or it created the idea that, marriage was something that can be broken. I, of course, am a product of, a family who had divorce in it. And so that only added to the level of insecurity I felt around marriage, as well as, the teachings that I had from my mom, and bless her heart, because she did what she had to do. But she was going through her own reactions to the divorce and making sure that, her girls knew that you should always have at least $400 in your account. Of course, that was back in the 80s, and never be left with anything, so that should the divorce happen, should a man leave you, that you will have the wherewithal to feed yourself. And, that's an important lesson in the sense that I do believe that a woman should have the ability to follow her passions and, to create her own business. I'm very entrepreneurial in that sense, if she so desires. But this time around with this marriage, I did ensure that I entered into a marriage with a man that I could trust financially. And so I was very clear at the outset that I did not want to work, that I wanted to focus on the children and their homeschooling, as well as have the time and the freedom to pursue my own passions, and one of them being my coaching. So I do have my coaching business, and I do have income from that, but I'm not actually working a day job. And that took a level of confidence in myself, and it made me approach marriage in a much different way, because I feel like in this day and age, we divorce so quickly, and we approach marriage from the aspect of divorce. In other words, we can just do this. We can spend thousands on a wedding. We can, get property and things in our both of our names. We can build a life together, but at any time we can also divorce. And I'm just going to be ready for that at the outset. Well, clearly, from a law of attraction standpoint, that which you focus on is that which materializes into your day-to-day life. And so focusing on divorce from the outset of a marriage is very indicative of how easily we divorce. I am divorced, and but I realized that that was the one thing that really was a huge factor in my divorce was finances. And many of us have had that experience. And of course, it's said that that's one of the top three factors in most divorces is finances. And so as a woman, as I think about the choices that I've made recently in my current marriage, just in terms of ensuring that I married a man who I trusted to financially steer this family, that is quite indicative of my concept of marriage. It's quite different from my concept before, and being vulnerable in so many ways in which I refused to be in my previous marriages is a component of a feminine life that I wanted to lead. I wanted to lead life in a more feminine way. I wanted to do away with the stress and the anxiety that I felt when I was much more in my masculine mode. I was never at peace. I was never at ease. And I was always stressed out, to be honest. And I never felt safe. I never felt that I was able to let my guard down. And so when I think about finances and that being a huge issue in my previous marriage, and the fact that I could not trust him to financially steer the family, that I could not trust him to really be the leader of the family, that says not only a lot about him, but it says a lot about me and my choices. And many times when I speak to my clients or just friends, and they're talking about their relationships, a lot of times I just want to ask them, and sometimes I actually do, if that is the issue that they are speaking with me about, that I simply ask, do you respect him? Do you feel that he is a person that you can let your guard down and be the feminine goddess that you say that you would like to be? And most of the time the answer is no, that they actually don't trust him and they don't respect him. And that's a huge issue. And I think that that's part and parcel of the question that I ask quite often, and that I've asked myself in the past. Well, why would I choose a man? Why would I choose to marry and blend my life with a man that I actually don't respect, that I actually don't trust? That's a huge question, ladies. That's a serious question. And I think the fact that I was not able to respect or trust the man in my life in the past is very indicative of my own sense of self-worth and my own sense of belief in love and belief in the powerful and positive dynamics with healthy blending of masculine and feminine traits. And the fact that I was not educated to understand the power of a blended dynamic where both the masculine and the feminine are equally powered, but differently powered. Building a life around trust is huge. Building a life around the idea that you can be feminine and that you can make good decisions and that you can trust the people in your life, including your mate, is really huge when you go through the day-to-day dynamics of a relationship, because I did not want to be the man in the relationship. I wanted to explore life from a feminine aspect and explore my own empowered life and my own empowered inner life. And a lot of that comes from this very, very vulnerable spot of being able to financially trust a man, and what that means for me and also for him. So I just wanted to leave that heavy topic with you. And I wonder how that sets with you. How does that filter into your own thinking about your own relationship with the man in your life? Is he someone that you can trust financially? And the question is not, should you trust him, or, well, what about all of our bills? What about, our responsibilities that we have? If I don't work, how are we going to do this? That's not really the question here. It's the question of, if all things were copacetic, so to speak, and he made enough to support the entire family, would you be able to trust him to do so? This is Leah Love. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. You can find out more about me at leahloveonline.com, and I will talk to you soon.